We're live. What is up? What's
Hello,
up, people?
I actually
What's
made
going
coffee
on?
this time.
oh shit.
Me too.
Yeah.
So let's talk
I-
about this coffee I got.
Okay.
I genuinely
ahead.
needed it today. I was in like midday, like I just ate 4 crispy taco nap time, sort of like you know what I mean?
Oh, I
yeah.
know what you mean.
That'll do it.
Yeah. Well, for the first time this week, I didn't do Pete's this morning, but I don't know what
okay.
brand of coffee it was. I went out to breakfast with my mother, and
very
whatever
nice.
coffee they gave me was delicious. It was definitely a lighter roast. It was very floral, very fruity, very caffeinated, but I have no idea what it was.
Sometimes
Well-
it's refreshing though.
Yeah.
I like
So Owen stopped by.
that son of a
and-
bitch.
Yeah. So his it's awesome having his soon-to-be wife, fiance, be involved in the veterinary side of things, because if you want an opinion on something, you can very easily send Owen a box. Well, I can send Owen a box. I'm not saying other people to send Owen a box because this is where this coffee came from. But anyway, he dropped off I had the Brisbane coastal. I had the male developed this thing on it's like by its eye where its face would swell up in the front. And turns out that something with the tear duct is not lined up right. So the eye is draining into this part. Riley is very aware of that. He knows.
Yes.
So you got to sort of like, drain it, which,
Hopefully
Yeah.
that works. That's like the path of least resistance. Sometimes that cures it. Sometimes that's a symptom of a further up issue.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember when I had Brian Cusco's Motley Golden Child Retic Jr. for several months here, because I'm close to Davis and he is not. So I was taking it to Davis every month for its visits, and meanwhile giving it injections every day, sometimes 2 injections a day, because it had the same thing. It had a orolacrimal duct infection or blockage that caused swelling under the spectacle in the eye, and then swelling around the general orbital area, and multiple draining and everything and subsections. It didn't resolve itself, so they ended up having to like go in there and like remove the gland and like pull it out, and drains and all this stuff. And yeah, he lived right here for like several months. In fact, the first night his cage was here, I wasn't used to having a cage in the middle of the floor, and I walked in the middle of the night barefoot, kicked it, and broke my toe.
Damn. Which toe?
So it was the furthest, next to the pinky toe on my right foot. It already was like broken several times from skateboarding, so it already had like this thing, but now it's like a claw. You know what I mean? Like it's
gross.
good.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the coffee.
Okay. So anyway, they drained it, or I should say, probably Melissa drained it, not Owen. But and it seems that if she said it might come back, it might not come back. Keep an eye on it. If it comes back, try draining it again, see what happens. Blah blah blah. Anyway, he brought that, and when I came, apparently there's an NPR listener that really knows how much Owen enjoys Bigfoot.
Apparently,
and they sent some Bigfoot.
I don't know where they would get that.
Yeah. So, it's quite delicious.
So it's good.
What's the roast there?
Let's see. It doesn't say. It says Honduras. Carlos Castro.
Come on, dude. Really?
Orange blossom honey chocolate juicy.
Ooh.
I don't taste any of that.
I just taste coffee.
Yeah. And it doesn't say what kind of roast it is, though. I'm surprised. It's just Bigfoot Coffee Company. So there you go. He also brought me this book that completes the set, which is very nice.
Nice.
Lizards of Western Australia, Dragons and Monitors. This is by Store.
Store.
Store,
Very
Smith, and
cool.
Johnstone. So, but
Sweet.
yeah, that's the coffee I'm sipping on tonight, even though it's 7:00 at night over here on the East Coast.
Excellent. I'm
Yeah,
having
tomato,
myself
tomato.
D&T because it's Friday, baby.
There you go. Bigfoot special roast. Oh, okay.
It's
There
my
we go.
Sunday, Lucas.
Actually, yeah, I work tomorrow, but whatever.
Yeah. Tomorrow's my Monday.
I can pretend that Fridays are still nice.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you guys up to? You pairing stuff yet? What's going on?
You best believe. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Mostly Owens Womas, the Western Blackheads, and the Jungles. 'Cause
Mhm.
those are my winter breeders. So,
Okay.
yeah.
You're ahead of me.
Well, I mean, we had that big storm come through like we were talking about last time, so I just started cooling and pairing early because
Sure.
I don't know, I couldn't not utilize an atmospheric river event that set records. So
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
the blackheads, I've seen a couple locks and a lot of spurring. I know with them that doesn't really mean a whole lot. They're not a species that is shy about locking up, but it's trickier for that to turn into actual ovulations. So we'll see. But yeah, you guys know how much the jungles have been locking up.
Oh yeah. Holy shit, man. That's crazy.
I messed with the girl a little bit today just because I was removing the male and I kind of palpated a little bit. I didn't feel follicles or anything, but it's who knows.
Still plenty early.
Yeah, early yet. So
Yeah.
I was listening to the NPR breeding episode part 1 earlier, and it makes me think about how you guys are talking about the breeding early and sometimes how that can
I know I heard
things
that
a
part
bit.
and I was like, shit.
Well, I've had it happen, dude. I've had it happen. I've
Yeah.
fallen for the pre-ov swelling and been like good and like pulled the male and like got goose egg, obviously.
Yeah.
That was like 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're getting a different weather pattern than I am over here. So you're starting when your weather tells you to start. So
yeah, for sure. And I mean, first year for me really doing a winter breeding cycle, like
oh yeah, that's right. You've
with
been
the-
doing your Centralians.
with the Brettles, I just stayed on Nick's schedule so that the animals didn't have to adjust to a new schedule. And he's a late cooler, so I don't mess with them till the end of December for the most part. Yeah, so I don't know. I figured try the holiday benchmark strategy for everybody else, and then that way it can be more engaged for a longer period of time too.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we've been doing at the shop. Is the first rain around Halloween, start pairing stuff, and like with the exception of the ring pythons have been going for a little while, and our females in her post-op shed, I believe. So
nice, the friendly one, right?
Well, yeah, we had to euthanize the one that had the paralysis in the lower half.
That's right.
After 2 years, it wasn't getting better, and it was causing shed issues, mobility issues, bowel movement issues. She was very upset, so I would imagine there was a high amount of stress and at least some discomfort. So,
So we got a couple of questions that popped up in the chat here. We'll shoot for the one from Joan first. So quick question for you guys. Do you take heat off of the hatchlings? I have just a few juveniles that will be cooled, but not sure what to do with my youngest. I'll go first with this one because my approach is kind of not the norm. I do not give, I put the new babies from that year or whatever, they go through the same process that I do for all of my snakes. They're all in one room. They all get cooled down. I don't know. My thought is that if you're taking carpet pythons, and I'm just going to assume that we're talking carpet pythons, if you take them down to 70 degrees at night, that's really not that cold. So, I don't know. me and Justin had talked about this on one of our trips, but he did bring up a good point that made me think about it. But like my thought is that if they're in the wild, they're going to go through the same weather as the adults. But I
And
guess
prey availability.
Sure. So I
Yep.
guess the thought would be, but where are they at and what are they doing? And there's not a whole lot of studies that have been done on, where baby carpets are. So are they using, microhabitats to sort of stay at a certain temperature, or, is in those microhabitats are special prey available? But I find that in our case, we're trying to breed snakes, or you're trying to keep snakes healthy in your room. Why not? Why do you wait until, X time to expose them to temperature drops and stuff? I always just felt that it sort of would lead you up to problems, because that animal is getting a shock to its system, as opposed to if it's been that way since it's been born, or hatch, what would be the difference? I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I do pretty much the same thing. I give them a night drop to let it drop to what the room does, let them feel that cold. The daytime they get some heat, but otherwise they experience the same cycle, photo period, food availability as the adults in here. So yeah, cycle everything just the same.
Yeah, and for me, I mean, again, this is going to be my first winter having a bunch of babies here. They are all Brettles, so I'm not concerned about cold. So they will certainly get a bit of a drop. I'm not going to completely cut heat tape at night, but the way that my baby racks are anyway, the ambient is pretty much just the room. It's just a very small little sliver of heat tape, so they're definitely going to feel some cold. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple things you should think about. Just my thoughts with, if you're going to expose animals to colder temperatures and you might be worried about them or whatever. I put a fail safe on it, probably to Lucas's point, right? My thermostat on that baby rack, so to speak, is set at that 70. So if for some reason the temperature would drop even lower than that, I guess here on the East Coast, if it's 22 degrees outside, the room might go down to 50, or who knows how low it goes. I don't know, but maybe give them a hide. Make sure that they have if you want to put some sphagnum moss or something, sort of, so they can get in there and sort of help retain some heat or whatever. Make sure that they get adequate heat during the day, right, so that they can warm up and thermoregulate and get their system going. And then the other thing is that don't feed big meals during this time, if at all. Yeah,
if at all.
I've made that mistake and it did not end good.
No,
so.
It doesn't suit them well. They'll regurgitate or rot it out and die, for sure.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that I learned, like if in the first season of NPR, we talked to Terry Phillip, right? Terry Phillip's whole thing is that he would keep everything at an 80-degree ambient temperature. And, I think one of the mistakes that myself and a lot of others did at sort of applying that is that you're looking at one little section of what he does, and you're not, doing his whole system, right? So how he feeds is sort of relevant to his temperatures, right? So if you're still feeding heavy, big meals, stuff like that, you have to provide something so that they can digest those meals. You know what I mean? So
right.
I think sometimes people pick and choose from those things, and they don't sort of look at the whole picture, if you will, of what you're supposed to be doing. So,
Yeah, it's a great point.
Yeah. So,
right on. And then we've got that Sean Porter having issues currently with mites. Uh-oh. So sorry. That's not fun. What's your go-to method of getting rid of them? As right now, using Frontline to solve the issue. So luckily, knock on everything around me, I haven't had mites at home yet. But of course, I have dealt with them at work, at the vivarium. And so the go-to method there is definitely a 1-2 wombo combo of a flea and tick powder that we purchase, as well as Prevenamite spray. Because what's the stuff called? Permethrin.
Permethrin.
Perithium?
Permethrin.
Bug killer,
Yeah.
bad chemical, toxic, does good job. So
Right.
if you really don't want to mess around, that's a good way to do it. Just make sure you follow instructions on the can, remove the water.
Make sure you ventilate the hell out of where you're doing it.
Yes, exactly. Like treat it as if it's deadly, because it is, but that's also
It
why
is.
that's
Yeah.
my sense.
So I've had to deal with it in my personal collection over the last 15 years or whatever twice. And my prevention and treatment method here is the same as it is at the shop. Of course, as anybody knows, it's really difficult to maintain quarantine protocols in the shop with so much in and out. So it happens, right? So, but that's prevention protocols, treatment, cross-contamination mindset, and a lot of other things come into play. So what if it does happen, I can catch it and nip it in the butt and actually curb it and eliminate it in 3 weeks. That's my personal record from finding a small mite outbreak to full-blown like contagion onto animals to eradication. 3 weeks I've handled it if you catch it early enough, but generally consider it a 6-week treatment period. And like Lucas, I do the Prevenamite, but I also like to do a bit of like a dip bath with every animal and kind of run them through my hands. And instead of using Frontline, I use like a Nature Guard or a Nature, I don't even know the company name. It's like this little clear bottle. It's basically a Mite Guard.
Right.
And I dilute that and I, just give every animal a little quick soak run through and then look them over. And if I see any, I handle it. And then just do that every week. Keep them sterile, keep them on paper. When you use the Prevenamite, what you need to do is you need to spray the enclosure from about a 12-inch distance, the enclosure or surface or tub or whatever, from roughly a foot, and kind of give it a good once over, but do it in a way that it's ventilated. Don't do it in a closed room. Make sure you've got fans going, windows open. If you can do it outside, even better. And then let it sit and dry for a bit. And then don't put the water in for a full 24 hours if it's an animal that, can handle that, because if that's aerosolized and then it gets in the water and they drink it and they ingest it, that's a big problem. So my most recent dealings with this, I had to, as a preventative, do an entire room with like 170 different snakes because I found it on 2 animals, right? So I did this exact treatment over the course of 3 weeks and got it all banged out. But the first 2 days of treatment, because it took me 2 days the first go around because I was pulling stuff off substrate and replacing it on paper, cleaning, doing the whole entire room. The first 2 days with the big roll-up door open, multiple doors open, a fan going, the amount of permethrin and treatment used, even in that situation, gave me the jag wobbles. I know what a jag feels like when it's having a neuro experience now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I borderline cooked my brain a little bit. I've seen it in snakes when they've been exposed to too much of the Prevenamite permethrin, and they start doing or they like full on flip over, or they just have a little head twitch. And I felt this feeling in the back of my head where I was like, what the hell is going on? Like I couldn't stand up straight, dude, for like 2 days. Yeah, I'm dead serious. And back in Santa Barbara, one of the times I had my first real mite outbreak, I treated the whole room, did a 9-hour like full dip and treat everything. And the next morning I woke up and I had bled from my nose profusely all over my pillow, like in the middle of the night in my sleep, just bled out of my nose, like a shit ton of blood everywhere, just from using the Prevenamite and that dip stuff. The dip isn't the problem. It's the Prevenamite and the ventilation.
Yeah,
so
it should not be taken lightly. But that being said, it is very effective.
Yeah, it kills the hell out of mites, but I probably took a few years off my life. I'm dead sure.
So why do you guys use the Prevenamite as opposed to just going like the You don't feel that the front line is as effective, or it's just not? What's your?
Well, again, personally, I haven't had to deal with it at home yet, so I'm just kind of following the protocols that were already in place for me at work. So not quite my call, not really my decision.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
I'm familiar with the frontline method. I remember when Stephen Katz was initially quite vocal about that, and I've seen people use it quite effectively. So I know it can be done very effectively. I've also heard, some of the bad sides of that, but I've also heard the bad sides of using permethrin and prevenamite because of misapplication and misuse. So I think either can be done improperly and properly. I've just always done prevenamite because that's just what's been available to me. It's been, it's much more affordable, although it's gone up in price these days. I can get, some cans for like $20-25 as opposed to a thing of frontline for 50, and it's like this big. I know a little goes a long way, but yeah. But that's what I do. I just do that every week for the first 3 weeks, and that usually nips it in the bud pretty quick.
So do you apply the prevenamite every time you do that go around every week?
So the first treatment, everybody gets it.
Yeah. Right.
The second treatment, only the bins, tubs, or enclosures where I visually see live mites get the spray. But everybody gets a full clean and disinfection, and then a dip. And then the third week, it's an only as needed on the spray or the dip, because usually by the third week you've had enough stages go through. Like if you catch it really early and you're not starting with several stages already having like gotten established, you can get it done in 3 weeks. If you're catching it late, 6 weeks, and then you're probably going to want to use the spray for the first 2, maybe 3 weeks, and then rely on the dip and sort of an oil treatment following. Don't be surprised if your snake scales look kind of funny for the first week or two after you're done with all this, and then they shed it out and it goes back to normal. But yeah, I mean, sometimes you got to get under those scales. Some of the stages of mites do not submit to the permethrin at different stages. So
right, gotcha. So that, I think that's probably the key that I hear most people, talk about, is that you gotta get it. I think people think that you can just apply it and then it's a done deal, but like you don't realize the eggs, the hatching, all the different life cycles of
Right.
Which is why you careful.
Do a few different.
Yeah, and you got to be careful not to kill your snakes.
Right.
Are you guys hearing interesting sounds?
Clicky, clicky, yeah.
Clicky.
Sorry, my brother's calling me.
Hello, brother.
Hello, Riley's brother. Welcome to Carpets and Coffee. What are you drinking? Yeah. So so let me ask this question, just because I'm going to pretend like I'm one of the people in the chat, and Sean here. And so when you guys what would you say is a time frame to spray and let it ventilate out? Are you talking like 10 minutes, 15 minutes? What's your thoughts? 5 minutes?
So if I'm not mistaken, on the can, I think the recommendation is to do 1 second of spray per square foot from like 14 inches away. So you're really not spraying that much of this stuff.
Right.
And I do use it at home. Don't get me wrong. Even though I haven't had mites, I always use it as a preventative when new animals come in.
Hence preventative.
Hence the name, exactly. So when I'm spraying it here for a quarantine bin, I spray it on my balcony on paper towel. I don't have like a yard, so that's my outdoor space, is apartment balcony.
Right.
And then I just leave it out there for like 10-15 minutes so that when I bring it back in, I know it's dry. But I'm never spraying the can in my home.
Right. Can you spray the paper and not let's say you're using a tub. Can you spray the paper and not the tub and still have it be as effective?
Probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Makes sense.
All right. Fair enough. What about baby?
Kill his thermostat.
Yeah, I know. He's just frozen, like ready to punch.
So funny. Babies. I have used it with babies. I haven't had issues.
Doesn't matter. Okay. All
I
right.
think the main deal is as long as it's dry, it doesn't pose a risk to a snake.
Right.
But you just have to be careful, because if it is ingested, it can absolutely pose
Cause
to
problems.
to snake, or not properly ventilated, like Riley's been talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh man, we got all kinds of questions going here. Yes, Stropurus. Yes, that's coming soon. Hopefully, at one point. I love those geckos. Amazing.
Those are pretty cool.
Yeah. So I will be adding them at some point, Christopher. No doubt. Do you guys feed undersized meals more often to get maximum growth out of your hatchlings?
Nope.
Undersized no.
No.
I do every 2 weeks, typically, a meal that leaves a good belly lump for baby carpets up to however, sometimes I'll even spread it out further. But as neonates, fresh hatchlings, after the first 4 weeks after their first shed, typically they're getting fed every 2 weeks, and that's kind of my system for the first year. I try to give them something good sized and give them time to digest it, have a bowel movement, relax for a few days, let their innards, their whole biology rest for a bit before even considering another meal. So usually 14 days, big meal.
Yeah. I pretty much do the same.
Yeah, me as well. I'm just constantly cringing at the recommendation to feed pythons weekly after learning more about snake digestion and the physiological processes therein. You don't need to do that. I don't care.
Dude.
You're
yeah,
okay.
I'm right there with you, man. After hearing, Dr. Loafman and Travis Wyman and everybody talking
Remember
about
the episode we did with Josh Parker?
Oh, yeah.
We talked about snake digestion. That was real eye opener for me as far as
that one was
goes.
huge. That one got real technical and almost over my head for most of it, but the gist of it was there. We overfeed.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And thus supporting the winter break of no food. Give everything a little bit of a break. Although I will say the only snakes that I do feed even through the winter, through breeding and everything, are the rainbows. And the Crebos, I'll feed sparingly, but I shut them down for the most part. But just once in a while, I'll give them a meal in between pairing, sort of a deal. But I want the male focused and not feeding. But that's a short window for them. And then otherwise, everything, from here till February is off of food. So.
Yep. I'll probably keep feeding falsies, but other than that, I'm in the same boat as you.
Yeah, you got to make exceptions for the ones whose natural history supports that as much as you want to, support the trigger for breeding of cycle feeding. Some species, it's not necessary, nor appropriate, nor natural.
And the, colubroid dipsatid digestion mechanism is probably worlds apart from old world pythons.
Yeah,
definitely.
I'm just not smart enough to say how.
Right.
We've had other people say it out there in very technical terms. We're just giving them the guy's what he said.
What that
Cliff Notes version.
Yeah.
This is for you, Riley. Do you keep your
keep ring pythons similar to rainbow boas? Yes, but a warmer hotspot. The ring pythons, they do like more of a cool swing a little bit. The rainbows, I give them a similar cool swing. I just don't go quite as dramatic. But yeah, they're not too different. They have very thin skin and they're prone to dry sheds in low humidity. So in that regards, their humidity maintenance is pretty similar. But otherwise, slightly warmer on the hot end. That's it.
Here's something that I don't know if you guys have ever the mites, what are they, predatory mites? I guess Taurus.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that before.
Buy some mites to fight some mites.
Yeah, I've heard
that
of
sounds
that.
like an Australia problem. How do we get rid of these?
Yeah, and I've heard other people like theorize like, oh, just get a bunch of ladybugs. I'm like, well, that sounds like another infestation I don't want to deal with.
I
No,
don't
thank
want
you.
bugs. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the only
guess
bugs that I want around here are the feeders and my tarantulas and stuff. Other bugs are not invited. Thank you.
Right. 100%.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's nuts. Yeah, mites are not fun. I've dealt with them a couple times, and they are not fun to deal with at all. And
It happens
but,
though, you know,
but it's
like
gonna happen. You know,
Absolutely.
yeah,
It is.
I think the community stigma around things like that
Yeah.
causes pervasive misinformation and just like keeps problems alive. Whereas people are just open about it and
Yeah.
just help somebody out and just be like, look, here's what
Yeah.
you know, I've had it.
100%. And
It's
like,
all good.
don't blame the keeper. Like, it's
Yeah.
you know, that's not productive in any way. And like, I'm
Yeah.
stoked
It's besides the issue.
Yeah, and you know, it's like you gotta just be open about it. Like, I've had multiple instances where I've bought snakes from somebody and they call me, you know, a week or a month later and say, "Oops, you know, I got mites. Check your stuff." And like, I appreciate that. Like, I'd much rather hear that and know than have to
Right.
find out
So you
down
can
the
be on
road.
the defense. Right.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Or
knowledge is
catch it
power.
early.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
for
shouldn't
sure.
be a stigma for something as common as that. Yeah.
So where I have gotten mites, believe it or not, has been from Carpet Fest.
Yeah.
Oh,
People come in
Yeah.
visiting your room after a show, right?
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
hearing about that.
from me.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Taurus mites, when they've eaten all the blood mites, they'll start eating their own until there's none left.
Wow.
They just
That's
take each
gnarly.
other out.
These
That's
things
pretty
sound
cool.
like some pretty badass
That's
mice.
savage. That's
Wait a
really
minute,
savage.
I'm gonna have to look these up. Taurus,
We need to
Yeah.
train an army of them to fight mosquitoes.
Oh yeah, for sure. Get some flying assassin bugs. There you go. That sounds terrifying. Don't do that. Whoever's listening to me that has the ability to, don't do that. That sounds
Holy shit!
sketchy.
You can get it right on Amazon.
The mites?
So I'm curious. Yeah. Hold on, look. I swear to God. Hold on, I'm gonna show you.
Amazon Prime mites. Need an
Now
infestation
everyone's
in
just-
24
now-
hours?
Now everyone's just gonna say they got mites from Amazon.
Wow.
Live prep. What the shit?
What the hell? I tell you, it's only $40. Ew.
Dude, that makes my skin crawl.
Yeah,
I think I'll pass.
I don't
Somebody
like it.
else can try it and tell me how it goes. Yeah.
Do they eat ants?
So somebody else do that. That's
Yeah.
creepy. Yeah, I don't invite mites of any sort.
What is society, though? When they have eaten all the blood mites, they will start eating their own until there are none left. Well, there will be one left, and he is the winner. He's whoever's the last mite standing. Clearly ate everybody else.
Wow. That's
So
crazy.
it's like Lord of the Flies.
You can
Lord
get a
of
whole
the
bunch of different kind of mites. There's some for a mix. Wow,
Hey,
what a
these
rabbit hole
mites
you
cure
go down.
balding.
Right. Predatory
Really?
mites, 5 to 10 mites per square foot. These mites, natural biological control agents, 2-spotted spider mites, broad mites, russet mites, rust mites, and more. Release every other week until infestation subsides.
You heard it here.
Not for children, maybe a choking hazard.
The mites? The
That's what
mites
it
are a
says.
choking hazard?
I don't know. Oh
Ah.
man, that's kind of
You know
crazy.
that label's on there because somebody's kid choked on that.
Yeah.
It couldn't have been on the bug. They're
Wow.
tiny.
That's crazy.
Ah, man. I don't like bugs. You guys know I don't like bugs.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
stop saying the M word.
Yeah, right. Move along.
They're going to summon them.
You
It's
give
a
me the
mighty Thunderdome.
heebie-jeebies.
Yeah. I constantly have the heebie-jeebies because I work at a big facility that always has something going on just by pure statistics and volume, you know.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happens when you bring in imports or boarding people's animals or trades or
exactly. It's going to happen.
Volume in numbers.
We need to acknowledge that and not be ostrich head in the sand about it. So
margaritas and mites.
Oh God. No, thank you.
Welcome to margaritas and mites.
I mean, yeah,
I'm gonna go sit in a pool until I feel clean.
It could just as easily
Bleach.
be margaritas and Morelia.
Yeah, that's better.
Margaritas, Morelia, and mites.
The trifecta.
You know, the more we say the M word, the more our viewership goes down.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You've been watching people leave?
Yeah.
How
I can't even listen to the word.
Horrible.
Mites upon thy houses if you leave the stream.
Right.
Oh, Jeff. See, Jeff, he hosted Carpet Fest. What kind of protocol can you do if you're hosting an event like Carpet Fest to prevent mites? Not let anybody in your room.
Did Gendra get mites?
So Jeff, there's a kind of like an unspoken common courtesy rule amongst the community that before you go to somebody else's collection, you don't go rummage about your collection and do things and then just go straight to theirs, or you don't go from a show and go straight to theirs. Like that's just common sense.
Or a freaking show.
Well, yeah, if you're at a show, I mean, you're screwed. If you're at a show, like there is no
that's
protocol.
What happened.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
That's what happened. Yeah,
that's how it goes.
Hamburg, probably got on somebody's shoe or somebody's shirt, or it wasn't like they.
People aren't very good at common courtesy, are they?
It's never intentional,
Yeah.
But like the best way to avoid it is prevention. So like 100% you want to avoid it. Never bring people over. Never let your animals leave your space. Never bring new animals in. And there you go. Never go see other people's collection. No, that's kind of boring. And that's not how this works. We all communicate. We all go see other people's.
Get one little sucker on a bag of substrate. Nobody's immune.
Which happens. That is very true. That does happen. So.
Yeah,
but
so
I think what it takes is if you have it, just be honest about it and go freaking handle it right away, and don't just put it off and let it spread, because that's negligent.
Yeah, spray everyone down with Prevenamite. I have coworkers that spray their bodies, and it makes me so concerned.
I've done that. I've done that leaving certain places of reptile zoological business.
I walked in once and this one dude was just like, like it's spray on sunscreen. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, I think to your point, right? It's sort of like I know if I was going to really the collections that would be close to me would be like Owen, or if I was going to see Matt or Keith or somebody like that, I just don't go in my room before I go to see them, and I don't go in my room when I come home.
Correct.
You know what I mean? I just no reason why, and it's not to say that they have it or whatever. It's just a precaution, and it's just like,
exactly.
It's protocol. Treat it as as hoops to jump through. That just add extra layers of protection. It's just you do that and make it habit. Then it's just routine and it's not a big deal. That's just how it goes. Like. I work at a place with reptiles, so that's a separate collection. Actually, it's two separate collections, and then it's separate from mine. So I have to keep that in mind. I don't come in here in the morning and then go straight to work. There's protocol.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about mites enough.
Change of course.
We can talk about something else. No.
Yeah.
So
let's do that.
I don't know. What do you guys?
We got into. We were doing breeding stuff. We were talking about starting pairing things. We got. Are you pairing anything, Eric?
I haven't started yet. But right now I'm sort of at this spot where years ago, I would just like, oh, I got all these projects. I want to put stuff together and, but I think now it's kind of trying to figure out like, what's the priority clutch? Like, what do I want to do? And what do I want to produce? And, I don't know. So there's a couple things that pop out to me. One, poison ivy to poison ivy, right? Offspring to see what happens with that.
Sweet.
I am convinced that if it is genetic, it is similar to the IMG in boas. And I'm sure, Riley, you know how that gene works probably better than I do. No, you're kind of a
yes. We have a few at the shop. We've got a few at the shop, man. It's crazy to see it happen right in front of you, dude. It's nuts.
So what happens when you breed an IMG to an IMG? Nothing?
It's a dominant gene. It's a dominant gene.
So it's just
yeah. There is no super form. It's 50% mode of inheritance to babies, and it's just you either get it, you don't. There it is.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, the female that I have from that clutch, the one that I'm gonna put together this season, it was like 8 males and 1 female, I think is what hatched out of the clutch.
Wild.
The males all turn black, dark, just like poison ivy. That female did not. Now she has a little bit of dark on her. She's darker than like your typical IJ. But I don't know. So I'm curious to see what happens. So that's one that's kind of at the top of the list for me. I'm curious to see what I obviously I want to do red coastal to Molly Ringwald to sort of make a whole bunch more red tigers. I think that's something that I'm pretty excited about. But I think one that I think is kind of an experiment thing is that I'd like to do red to citrus tiger. Because I think kind of my feelings are that it might work like that red jungle thing that Will Bird had. I think it's probably something along the lines of like if you bred that red to a jungle, that you're going to get a similar look. And I think that the citrus tiger being as extreme, especially my female that I would use is, she's so extreme, similar to yours, Riley. She looks just pretty much like yours. I think you're going to get, I think that would be cool. I mean, the caramel, the citrus tiger turned out pretty cool.
Dude, my female caramel citrus tiger is electric. She's really coming into it now, much more. Like I've been seeing it over the last year and a half or so, but like it's different. It's very different.
Yeah. And I guess probably the next clutch that I would be after would be the Russian tigers. I think to sort of get more of them out there and put them in the hands of people that would want to work with them. But there's so many things. When you have sort of a big group, Riley, it's kind of like I don't want to do more than X amount of clutches, like 5 maybe at the tops, and then so I want to try to manage it, but I want to do stuff that I think is going to be cool or something that I sort of want to do. And then obviously inlands and diamonds are kind of really want to check them off and produce them and see what that's like. So
of course,
I don't know, sort of where I'm at.
Yeah, it's hard to whittle it down when Morelia is your focus because Morelia is such a broad group on its own.
Yeah, because there's so many ways you can go. I didn't even talk about hypo stuff or all these other Papuan carpet stuff that's going on, but that would probably be the ones that I would most want to hit. So I'm the opposite of Lucas, where I've bred all winter breeders and never bred spring breeders. So I would like to sort of get that.
I can't believe you haven't done Brittles yet.
I get skunked with the old here's a pair. Turns out to be 2 males or 2 females. Or it's happened to me multiple times. And Brittles or something, you can't just like,
turn one into a girl now.
Yeah.
Dude, if that had happened to me, this male with how small he is, I'd be like, oh, he'll never breed. Or she will never breed. Sorry. Here's a tiny
Yeah.
Bradley. Who wants her?
Look at the tiny Bradley.
Look at this tiny Bradley. It's so
Yeah.
tiny.
Yeah, tiny. Put it in your
Yeah.
pockets.
Aw.
Just
That's
like
pretty
a
good.
little tea. It's a teacup. A teacup red light.
As it bites
It's a
it
new
in
ball.
the nipple and rips it off. Such a
It's a
jerk
new-
sometimes about food.
Some of the
Yeah.
babies I made are not very nice.
Really?
Dude.
Yeah, which like it doesn't really matter. But I've been getting some inquiries on Morph Market specifically, like I'm a 4th grade teacher. I need a friendly one. Is this one friendly? And then I'd go over
Right.
and check the one that they liked, and it's like bah 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 bah. It's like, sorry, this one is not friendly. But I have lots of other ones that are friendly. But
Do you boop the snoot to see? Is that the test? You
yeah,
booping
for sure.
snoots?
I mean, just kind of present thy hand and see see what happens.
Yeah.
But I kind of shoot myself in the foot a little bit because on like my YouTube videos from years ago or whatever, I'm like, Breadlie, they're so nice, they're always so friendly, and now I am gonna end up selling some that aren't, and people are gonna be like, you,
You lied.
yeah,
How
It
dare
is
you.
what it is. Everything with
It
a
is
mouth
what it
can
is.
bite.
yeah, and they're all individuals, and a snake's a snake.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
for
idea
sure.
of not getting bit by a python is kind of silly if you think about it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I agree, and I got over that, but I also understand where people are coming from because when I was first getting into this, I didn't want to get bit either.
right.
I mean, let's be real. Nobody wants to get bit.
But you
like,
get to a
yeah.
point where you're like, "Aw," instead of like, "Ah."
dude, it just happens. It just happens.
Yeah.
I was getting chewed on by the one white lip at Lisa's house. One of the 10 was just a little hellion and was happy to like do the full like. They're intense if they want to be because they bite and then they use their own body as leverage to twist around their neck and pull and like yank. And this thing was doing it to me like multiple times, and I was laughing hysterically. And like Lisa and Kathy were just laughing at me. They're like, "What kind of response is this?"
Yeah.
I was just like, "This
It's
is
the response
adorable."
of a man that has been bit many times.
Too many times. It's just, it is what it is. Like adults, that is like, it is what it is. But damn it, that sucks. Babies, it is what it is, and shake it off. But some stuff is not pleasant. Like that 4-year-old coastal who grabbed me right on that little pressure point there and like bruised my hand all green and purple. Not fun.
Yeah,
that is what it is, though.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm fortunate still that the only thing that I have that bites is that one dickhead Woma and Owen's Womas. But Womas are easy because they're so slow and predictable. Like, just don't let the head get close to you and it won't bite you.
Tell that to the female over there. She shot out from like on top of the hide in the back, and the corner's like, whoop, grab me and like.
All right, well, that hasn't happened to me yet.
Yeah,
so
don't tell her that. She's all of a sudden
child.
like, dude, she's all of a sudden Superwoman. She's like out for blood. Yeah.
But my baby Aki still likes to bite me, as you guys saw earlier today.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, but it's okay.
Yeah.
The
Mine are chilling out. They're pretty cool. Kimberly's they love you, man. They're like
the trio of Kims that my friend and I are in on together. They're at his place, but he sends me a lot of videos and updates, and they're just so freaking cute.
nice.
And all placid, and they all eat in front of him. They're just confident little buggers.
That's cool.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
The Ackies we have at the shop are chill. The water monitors that we hatched out, half of them are chill, half of them will try and flee pretty quickly, and if you look at them wrong or look away, they'll bite you, dude.
Like mom and dad. You got Rudy, just perfection, and then you got Addie, who's kind of.
I can work with Addie. I've actually been petting him, pulling shed off of him.
Less friendly.
Oh yeah. Sketchy.
Rudy's
interesting. I thought this was interesting. Lori was saying that about Bradley finding differences in the various lines.
I've noticed that as well. I would corroborate that. Hypos seems to be the most flighty and bitey in my experience. And I've heard that from other people as well, that the hypo line is a little bit more jumpy, if you will.
Interesting.
What about Stonewash?
Well, my sample size for Stonewash is 3, but they're all puppy dog tame.
Mine too.
Yeah. Yeah, mine are
My Lazic
pretty
line,
chill.
everything's food until it's not.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. My big female, like a year or two ago, bit me in the middle of like one of the OG live stream carpets and coffee.
Right.
Oh,
Pulled
yeah,
her
I've
out of
heard
the
about that.
cage, full on, like grabbed me on the hand and like food wrapped me.
Yeah.
And I was
Puts
just
it
like,
in the-
yeah, it's middle of live recording. I was just like, okay. And somebody was like, what does it feel like? I was like, you ever accidentally stapled your hand? Well, it's like that, but like a bunch of times all at once.
Were you giving a speech about how tame they were and everything? And all of a sudden smacked.
I don't think the topic was regarding their tame behavior. I think it was just
Right.
talking about them.
Right, I gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's those are Lazic line animals. So I don't know what Lori's seen with the Lazic lines. So there we go. Lazic seem to be by. Okay, that explains why mine are not as trustworthy as others. We'll say.
Like again, I mean, there
Situation.
snakes are individuals, but I think it's also fair to say that to an extent, to a degree, disposition is fairly heritable. You know, like
Oh, sure.
especially for some species. Like Loafman tells me that he very clearly sees behavioral tendencies being passed down in his water cobras. Which is just pretty neat. So, you know, why is that? It's who knows, you know, what maybe the hypo line itself has less captive generations, you know, who knows?
Yeah.
But
you know, the interesting thing is like, I don't know if you guys have noted, but well, I think of Riley's poplins. Those F1s are just evil, man. They're just straight up evil, right?
Mhm.
But the adults, I'm assuming yours are the same. That you know you got them from Dan, and right, they're the ones from Dan, right? That came in from Dan. Okay, they were pretty chill, right?
Sweethearts, totally
Yeah.
tame, no hook
And it
needed.
seems like as soon as you get that F1,
Dude,
I don't know,
they're
man.
mean as shit.
It's
they're
crazy.
pissed.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Why
Alan,
wasn't I
what
born
that-
in the jungle?
Alan was over here the other day, and I was showing
promised jungle.
Alan like my meanest snake in the room, and it was my female head Xanic IJ, and I was like, dude, stand
I
back.
don't know what it is about those, man. I will be the first one to tell you. Anything with Xanic and IJ, oh man, they are just on another level. Holy hell!
Well,
They get the
long-term
reputation.
goal, take
Just
some
to breed that
visuals to some like second generations, you know,
Yeah.
and then make some hets and see what that does. I mean, I'm gonna have them forever, so like we'll see what some generations do, you know.
I think those are the only two carpets in my collection that when I treat them like I would treat a scrub python. Like there's just no, you know what I mean? There's no problem. Some of them, you know, some of them are like a little food defensive when you first open it. Other ones are like, you know, once you get them in your hands, they're cool. Some of them are cool for a little while and then they'll only take so much. You got to know where the limits are. But these IJs that are het exantic are evil.
It's 100% evil 100% of the time. If they're awake and you're in their space, they're focused on you like a missile.
Yes.
They're not pleasant.
Even just their face structure looks evil. Like they look different than a normal poplin carpet because they're just like, I'm just gonna.
They've got the devil in them.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah. Holy hell, man! Wow.
Yeah, they're out for blood for sure.
Very interesting. Well, you know, there could be something to that. Every morph thing, it's not just phenotype genes; it's all linked to other stuff, right? So,
yeah,
there could be
I guess if
something
you
there.
take the yellow away, it makes you feistier. I guess is that.
It also took away the joy of life.
Yeah, I used to be
no
yellow.
sun.
Now I'm not. How dare you?
Yeah. Yeah, it's super interesting though.
Yeah. So what do you guys got going on breeding? Oh, go ahead, Lucas.
I maybe beating a dead horse at this point, but I was going to say you guys have also talked in the past about how retics used to not be chill at all, but now just with so many decades of captive breeding, it's like a completely
Good
different
God,
animal.
Yeah.
Holy hell. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember in the 80s when my dad first got retics, obviously wild caught. They were just, they wanted to kill you and eat you. I mean, this is really what it came down to. I mean, it was,
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
yeah.
That's what I've
It's
heard.
they
crazy.
were-
So who knows what we'll be looking at with these kinds of snakes in a few decades if we make it that far.
Yeah. Yeah. How about zebra
Yeah.
jags? Yeah, zebra jags are also, I've noticed they're feisty. I think zebra,
Zebra
don't
itself is full of.
I think they're a
piss
little
and
bit
vinegar.
feisty. Yeah. Yeah.
You gotta be on it with them. I mean, they'll mature and you can work with some. Like my one breeder female, she used to be like my most notorious. Like use a hook with her. She's hit me in the open palm twice.
Oof.
But now I can handle her fine. But like all the zebra babies are notoriously way feistier than the other jungles. Super zebras as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
but would you guys agree that it's fair to say there's exceptions to every rule?
Of course.
100%.
We don't want
100%.
people to think that this is line in the
No,
sand, like
No.
I got a zebra.
Yeah.
It's gonna
I would
suck.
say, yeah, I would say that out of all, I mean, all the carpets I have, like I said, the only two that really, again, it's just a matter of knowing that individual and how to approach them, I guess.
I
it's learning
can
your
I
snake,
can
right?
pick up all my adult zebras without using a hook. They're not
Yeah.
they're not that bad.
So I always use a hook, not necessarily like I don't pick them up with the hook per se, but I sort of just get them into the mode of knowing that
Right.
I'm coming to pick you up.
Like a tap training kind
Yeah,
of
it's
thing.
a tool.
Training,
It's
tap training.
it's another way to communicate.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, like I've got some baby zebras that are the devil. I've got some adults that are chill. I've got some juveniles that it just depends on the mode and day of the week. And then I've got some coastals from my good buddy Travis at Living Legless that are just as bad as those head exanic IJs. So
Yeah. Here's a question. So, with blood pythons, right? Short tail pythons in general, in the early days that they would get them and they were, vicious. So, well, I say vicious. I'm being a little exaggerating it a
Snap.
bit, but like,
For sure.
yeah, snappy, not something that you could necessarily, go
Not
and
laid
handle
back.
without getting nailed, right?
yeah.
But they found that they were keeping them too hot in the early
Mhm.
days, and they sort of adjusted that, and then that temperament changed. So I remember in the early, so when I was first getting into carpet pythons and say like 2007, let's say 2006, somewhere in that area, the common way to keep a carpet python at that point was your standard python way to approach things: 90-degree hotspot, 85-degree ambient temperature, which is way too hot in
Jesus.
my opinion.
Yeah.
Yes, right. But that's how you did it. I remember talking with Luke Snell about how he used to keep 85 hotspot, and he's like, "Yo, man, I'm just going to tell you, people are keeping these things just way too hot." Now he worked with mostly IJs, so that I guess even then, you'd probably approach it more like a chondro since they are from where they are. But that's sort of how he did it, and he had huge success. So I wonder if it could be just a thought, maybe temperature can play a factor in feistiness. I don't know. Maybe they're more turned on or aggravated, or
certainly perhaps an agitation response. I think that's absolutely within the realm of possibility. And plus, if something's excessively hot, it has, like you said, more kinetic energy to be like striking nonstop, and
right,
especially if it's
Yeah.
pissed off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just had a customer actually come in and tell me that her first pet snake, which happens to be a T-Pause albino matrix blood python, a little baby she got in. She's had it for a month. She's keeping it with like a 95-degree hotspot, and like she's like, "Oh, the thing's like cruising around and trying to climb up the walls. I thought it was happy." I was like, "Dear Lord, that's a blood python. That thing shouldn't be moving at all."
It's trying
And
to
she's-
run.
Oh, dude. She's like, it won't eat. And I've already force fed it and assist fed it 3 times. I've had it for a month. And I'm like, oh,
Wow.
fuck. Like, you should not have that snake. I'm sorry.
Oh man. Well, hopefully they'll be receptive.
Well,
learner.
she was, I mean, I corrected her husbandry, and she was shocked that she was like, oh my gosh. I was like, well, yeah, you can't believe everything you read on the internet. So
here's a question. Yeah, here's a question for you guys that deal with the retail side of things, right? Do you find that, like, what's the percentage of people that are coming into the shop that have that sort of mindset when it comes to reptiles? Like the
mindset
hear this
that is
of the misinformation type of thing.
incorrect.
Like, correct. And where are they getting this from?
Yeah, well, that's a great question.
Facebook.
I would say 9 out of 10. The majority of folks think
at least 75%.
Yeah, 100%.
Wow.
The majority of folks think
got it wrong.
That things need to be too hot. Things need to eat too often.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just all the usual suspects.
We get customers getting like super upset with us when we like tell them like, no, you can't buy that boa and put it in that little tarantula enclosure. Like that's not okay.
Real.
Yeah, they lose their shit. Like,
I have coworkers that get mad at me when I tell people that their ball pythons don't need that it's okay to put a ball python in something bigger than a CB70.
I've got one in a 40-gallon in my living room with a UV light, plants, and everything. It does
I literally
just fine.
have people fight me that's too much space for a ball python.
Oh my god, dude! These dogmas are killer. They're absolutely awful. They're so tragic to the hobby.
That article that I sent into the NPR chat last week. Folklore husbandry. It's a plague.
It's so pervasive.
Does it get exhausting? I mean, like, okay, so I think my thought would be that, take it 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
There wasn't a ton of podcasts. There wasn't a ton of YouTube content. There wasn't a ton of, Facebook really wasn't a thing. There wasn't there was still the internet and forums and stuff like that. But why? I don't understand why, if people are taking the time to put out the information, I guess it's just they're not exposed to the right people.
Yeah.
I guess.
I think that the only thing that gets exhausting to me is when people aren't listening. I have no issue at all, sharing what my knowledge is at the moment, which of course I'm always still evolving and learning and soaking up as much as I can, but I can help people that are starting from ground zero,
right.
But level zero, I should say. What was I going to say? I think that the misinformation comes a lot from Facebook groups like Riley's talking about, but also just the cookie cutter care sheets. And people don't look for information in the right places because the right places aren't always the most accessible. And if somebody's just looking for their first reptile and they have no knowledge, they're probably not going to go first to like a 3-hour podcast from an expert, unfortunately. I know I didn't. I landed there eventually, but
unfortunately they go to wherever they can make the easiest mistake. They'll come to a specialty shop like us. They'll get responsible keepers that tell them appropriately what to buy, how to keep it, and they'll be like, that's too expensive and too complicated. They won't like that answer. They'll go to the big box chain, get the little kit that's right there by the turtle or whatever that the associate who reads something off a laminated placard from their corporate employee up in New York somewhere who's never looked at a reptile sent them that they have to follow. And
I can't help but think too that a lot of these ideas maybe stemmed from a little bit of a corporate capitalist situation where feeding a snake more means you're selling more feeders, which means you're getting the customer back in the store more often. So your snake should eat twice a week. Keep coming back. It's like, I'm
Right.
sure that there is an element of that.
Sure.
I'm positive
So-
there's an element of that because I've had past employers tell me to not tell people that their snake only needs to eat 4 times a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
I since I have now bug eaters, every once in a while I go to the local PetSmart and get some crickets. And when I'm standing in line for crickets, the conversations I hear just like sort of like I don't know. I'm just like, what? Wait, what?
Dude, it's bad. It's bad. It's really sad sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like, I don't know what, so let me ask this question again from the retail side of it. Do you find that more people are, I guess from my generation of reptile keepers, 80s and 90s, as we grew up, it was all about, well, we really didn't have the knowledge, right? I mean, we were sort of learning as we were going. And, you think of Rob brought up hot rocks earlier and, things like this that at the time you thought were cutting technology, and really turns out that the whole idea is just kind of, I mean, the idea, I guess, itself kind of makes sense, right? If a lizard is basking out on a rock, it's going to be absorbing that heat from above as well as below, or like, that's why snakes go to a pavement or, a paved road at night to absorb that heat. Well, at least that's what the thought is, right?
The problem is very few people within reptiles. And that stems from the people of 1 to the people of 1,000. A very small percentage of those people understand how heating elements actually work and how to properly maintain and manage and gauge them. And so people burn their animals, they do things, and it's not intentional, but like that product just happened to be very problematic. And the fact that it's still in existence and made, and a kid brought it up in the shop the other day, I was like, you're 8 years old, why do you know what a hot rock is? You've been spoiled. No, we don't sell those, get out of here.
Right.
Heat pad, under tank heat pad.
Yeah,
I think I think I think back to, again, when I was there at Luke's place and we were looking at the IJs, and I think that I should have said this first, but like the conversation I was having with him was, I was like, well, I notice all my snakes are sort of like, and at this point I had all young snakes, like maybe a year and a half, but small snakes. And they were all sort of pressed up against the front of, the tub. And I'm kind of thinking like, that just doesn't seem right. It doesn't look right. Something's wrong. Something's off. So I was talking to him and he was sort of saying, well, try adjusting the heat. And when I did that, again, it's not following to your guys' point, right? It's not following something you can hand people and say, here you go. This is the directions, this is what you do.
The recipe.
And I noticed the behavior change, So it's sort of like, I sort of like Zach's approach or Dr. Loafman, his whole approach to the evidence-based herpetoculture type of keeping and stuff. And I kind of feel like, I don't know, I maybe it's just in my bubble that it seems like people are accepting the idea that to have less and have a more elaborate setup. I was thinking on your video, Riley, where Lisa's set up with her white lips, like what was the plants she had in the jar? I can't remember what they were called, but she had it like at the bottom of the thing. Oh, what the hell were they called? But anyway, just
she had the begonias. She had the begonias. That was in a beauty snake enclosure. That thing looked like a freaking greenhouse, and then there were just snakes living in it. I was like, good Lord, that's amazing.
Right. Yeah.
Dude, you open the door and you feel the humidity.
Right?
I was like, oh, that's awesome. She literally she made that enclosure herself too. Like, she was like, don't judge me. I was like, judge you. This is amazing. Like, she was like talking about her craftsmanship. I was like, who cares? Look at this thing. Like, It was,
Yeah.
oh, dude, like the trough was like that deep and just planted, and then she had the hides on the wall, and I was like, that's ingenious, like. And she's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, the snakes use them all the time, and then one of the male was under a potted plant that had like, dude, it was super cool.
Lisa does a
Yeah.
great job with her animals, and I'm sure it's no accident that she produced the white lips. She pays
Yeah.
attention to
Right.
them, she treats them all
Right.
well, and I'm really
Yeah.
excited she has my Aru because I think she's going to produce them.
Yeah,
that's
That
great.
Aru has been eating pretty well and breeding with her male
Yeah,
Aru,
I know.
who I saw, and she looked good, dude. She looked real thick. She looked happy. She looked.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's exactly where I would want that snake to be. I love that snake. Lisa's
Yeah.
a great keeper. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's such a good point about the humidity, right? That was something that I noticed in Australia, right? You could feel that when you said that. I immediately thought of what it felt like to get out of the car where that carpet python was. When you got out of the car, you just felt it. It was like a wall of humidity.
Yep.
You're just like, whoa, okay.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
it's not an easy thing to achieve. So I wonder if that had any success with any bearing into her success with
She's very
that
diligent
species.
about making sure they have a big water bowl and a humid hide. Those are her two key elements, regardless of the size or style of enclosure for the male, female.
Right.
Those two things are crucial for her. I don't think she really sprays enclosures down. She'll make sure the moss in the hide is clean and moist, but otherwise she'll run like paper on the bottom. And then I think she just kind of manages the room. The species she works with are all kind of in this parameter of similar care. She doesn't have a large collection. I mean, she's got IJs, she's got white lips, and she's got chondros. You know what I mean? And like one or two ball pythons. So like everything that's in that one room, she can just dial the room in, and that's what she's done. So yeah, she's had that animal for several years. She does great with it because she loves it so much. She pays attention to it. And every time I get updates from her, because she'll come into the shop for supplies, she'll tell me what it's doing. And while it was breeding and gravid and everything, she's showing me these photos, and her interpretation of what she was seeing, although she doubted herself the entire way through, was exactly spot on. And I was like, Lisa, I agree with you. I think you're right. It's
you
just,
read them like a book.
You've just been programmed to think that it's happening at the wrong time of year.
Yeah.
Right.
She's like, but it's August. I'm like, Snake doesn't know that.
No, I remember I was at the shop for some of those days, and she was like, I think they're breeding. And we were like, great. But she's like, but they can't be breeding. We're like, well,
well, why
they
not?
are.
Yeah.
They did not read the book. They did not get that memo. They have not followed any doctrines. They are doing what they do. And yeah, I agree. It was super cool to see that.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's I think with those species in particular, right? White lips, rings, stuff like that, that hydration and humidity is probably a huge factor in their success in just keeping them, healthy. Click, 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 click.
He's getting so quick to the draw too. It's
he is. He's still good, man.
a millisecond to the mute button.
Yeah.
The thing with the ring pythons that I've noticed, having known Grant's collection over the last 3 years, is that they have a very, very narrow window for when a female is receptive. Like Womas, you can start early, but their window is longer. IJs and a lot of carpets, they have like month or two ranges of windows. But ring pythons, man, if you don't get it just right, she goes in the shed, you missed it. It's gone like that. And you got to make sure she's fat and fed. You got to make sure that male's in early, like August, September, in that early season. And once she's off food, you're done. You're done. She goes into shed, and that's that. And you're either getting slugs or you're getting eggs. And so we're waiting on her post-ovulatory shed right now. And it's so quick and so fast that you just doubt yourself the entire time.
That's
So,
interesting.
yeah, it's noticeable after seeing it 3 years of like how we've just missed it or just been close, and the results kind of show. It's
right.
Yeah. So.
What's the is it just what's the signs that she's showing that would lead you to believe that she's in that window? Is there anything, or is it
Yeah, I mean, it's the same. You can see her getting ravenous and putting on weight and all that stuff. It just happens at a different time of year. So you just have to know to look for it. Start looking and feeding heavily in like May, June, July. And then August and in September, that's when you want to start doing some pairing, and you got to be careful. You got to watch them. You just have to make sure they don't go after each other, because they can sometimes like be good when you put them together. But then like if you're removing one and the other one like happens to move because the movement's too fast out of a peripheral, they'll strike in food response. So that's something to be mindful of, but you really have to just pay attention and then like break and feed and then put them right back together. The other thing we do is we leave them messy as all get out. Like I'll pull large boluses of feces out, but otherwise like urates and shed and funk is left everywhere. I clean the water every week like normal or more as needed, because they make it messy. But you gotta let that female have her scent in her safe spot and make sure they're compatible and do their thing. But we've gotten eggs from that female 2 seasons that have gone the distance and hatched, but the babies were problematic. And, that could have been from timing, not getting the male in soon enough, incubation error, a whole host of other things. So she's proven multiple times we're getting there, but it's not what you would call success just yet.
Gotcha.
So
how are the blackheads looking at the shop?
Good. They are still eating, retaining weight, not making a lot of mess, which is pretty typical of females getting ready for the winter. They're kind of the cleanest animals in the shop right now, them and the bloods. That young male, dude, he only eats like super large fresh killed mice, but he tries, he goes after the female, he spurs, he locks, he does his thing, but it remains to be seen if anything comes of that.
He's in 2019, right?
I believe so. Yeah, so he's 2, something like that. 2.5.
Interesting.
So we'll see. It'll be data one way or the other. If it doesn't work, it's still data
for sure. Yeah.
The Womas are breeding right on schedule.
Excellent.
Those seem to be home runs at this point. They're awesome. Kind of easy. Yeah.
That one female, man, still one of the nicest ones I've ever seen. I love that snake.
Not in temperament, but yes.
No, not in temperament. But with Womas, you don't care about temperament.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what you're getting, right?
Yeah, you got a Woma. Congratulations. It fit you.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah. I got to drive up soon. I still owe you and Grant some Brettles for those Womas.
I forgot all about that. I'm sure Grant didn't.
I didn't either. I just, Sacramento.
Yeah.
It's far.
Yeah. We're finally clearing out space in the hatchling rack, moving baby ball pythons and blood pythons. So we'll have space.
Excellent.
Yes.
Cool. Ball pythons.
Dude, I hate ball pythons.
Do you?
I've been getting bit by more ball pythons than anything else lately.
I finally got bit by a ball python for the first time in my life last week. And it was not for lack of trying. And I've handled so many ball pythons, but it just took a really long time for one to be like, meh.
Well, you never messed with that bumblebee clown female we have then.
I guess not.
I have been bit by more ball pythons than I have carpet pythons. Yeah. It's
when I was going through and sexing like 2 clutches of blood pythons, I didn't get bit once. When I was going through and sexing like 4 clutches of ball pythons, I got bit like 8 times.
Man,
yeah.
You think it's hard to sex carpets? Holy hell, blood pythons are a whole nother thing, man.
Carpets
Oh,
are
my
easy.
God.
They bite you and hold on, and then they're still, and you're like, sweet, stop flailing.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but even just the idea of how difficult they, or I shouldn't say how difficult, but if you don't know what you're looking for, how you can get faked
All
out,
males.
Yeah.
In
Yeah,
Bloods,
100%.
the all males thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's they're tricky, man. But
Yeah.
luckily, doing it with Matt, you've sort of seen some of those,
That little
some
hook
of those
thing on the
things.
end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, check this out. This is what it is. So
Yep.
it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I remember the epiphany I had when Grant showed me that. I was like, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. So
I found out that that you can palpate baby white lips when I was over at Lisa's, so that was neat. Just
Feel the
interesting.
little.
and they're not little babies. They're like the size of
Yeah.
6, 8 month, 9-month-old carpets, at least, for sure.
Yeah.
So I remember when Dennis McNamara was at my house for Carpet Fest, he was saying that there's a way that at the zoo, I think it was at the zoo, somebody he knows, I can't remember how he came up, but they were basically sexing snakes from looking like, and this was pythons, from looking at the tail and
Mhm.
being able to tell, there were certain
Yeah.
cues that you would look at that would, or certain, things you would see that would sort of,
You look at enough snakes, you see enough snakes pass through your hands, you can start to see it. I play mind games with myself with every snake that comes in and gets sexed. I look at it, I'm like, let's see if I can get this right. Just looking at it, I'm like, and then I'll test myself. And some species you can, some you cannot.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. It's like, I don't know. I think now, like if you saw a carpet python, right? Regardless, if you saw a wild carpet python, we would all pretty much have an idea of where it's from, right? Is that coastal,
Yeah.
jungle, an inland? Is it a northern jungle, a southern coastal? IJ. This. That,
I don't think I give
right?
myself that much credit. I think I'd be like, I don't know, but
Oh, really?
you guys
Okay.
can do it.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm an expert to be able to pick them out, but I'm just saying that they, you've looked at so many of them that
yeah.
And what I find interesting is that when you start to get into a different species, that's sort of like resets, right?
Yeah.
And you're sort of like I'm like, I can't see, like, what am I looking at here, man?
Yeah.
I don't, and my brain won't go, stupid. This is how it was when you first started looking at carpets. They all look the same,
I think that's a really
Yeah.
good point. Yeah.
Yeah. I've had to
if you
retrain
look
my
at it
brain
enough,
with.
yeah.
I've had to retrain my brain with blood pythons, with boas, with corn snakes, all that stuff. I'm like, I don't see it. I don't see it.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. Sorry,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
snake here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Here's the price tag. You want it?
I get what you're
Right.
saying. I thought you meant like accurately guessing localities, but
Oh,
no,
hell
for
no.
sure what you mean.
No,
Yeah.
just
I'm with
rough
you now.
estimate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lucas is like, you goddamn cocky son of a bitch, you. How dare you think you
Like,
can
I
just
can't do that
look
at
at a
all.
carpet python and know
Hanging them out to
the
dry right
genetics
here.
behind it and
Do I
where
need
it
to-
came from,
I'm
locality.
gonna get kicked off the show. I can't do it.
You won't get that
This is a
badge on your sash.
Yakapuri Depot carpet python. How dare you? And then Scott's messaging me like, I don't think there's such a place called Yakapuri Depot. What are you talking about?
Well,
I'm
isn't
like,
there
you don't
also-
know anything.
Wow.
GPS that
The
shit.
You hear
paper
that? You
says
hear that, Scott?
Yakapuri Depot.
Pause the podcast. Rewind. I think Eric just said you don't know anything.
Did you guys happen to listen to the Reptile Fight Club with
Mhm.
Scott and Justin?
Yes.
Yeah.
What were your
I think
thoughts?
I'm all
What were
caught up on Fight Club. It was
Yeah.
good. It was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of wish that they made it a three-way conversation and had Mutton as well, and then done like 2v2. I think that would have
Okay.
been fun because
Yeah.
Nick feels very strongly about carpet taxonomy, and I think it would have been more like a fight.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But it was great.
Clearly.
It was great. Yeah.
I think it was
fuck
a great way to set the stage for when we do that again after the book comes out and some taxonomy changes.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I kind of felt like I was telling Justin and Scott, I kind of felt like they had information that they couldn't share to sort of like maybe validate their points that they were trying to make. So it was like,
Exactly.
you know,
I really liked the conversations about the biogeography and the natural barriers of dispersal and stuff like that. It's really interesting stuff.
And I thought that it was interesting that Justin was talking about the fact that human encroachment on a habitat could then facilitate a bridge between, you know, certain animals that weren't able to bridge before. I thought that was
totally, and it makes perfect sense. You know, we like to make what would be arid and inhospitable habitable for ourselves, which also means for a lot of other things too. I'm sure there's a ton of wildlife that wouldn't be able to live in the metropolitan area of Los Angeles if it was still a freaking desert and didn't suck all the water from up north to make it less of a desert. So it's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah. I like what did this say? I like what Scott said in the Fight Club, that the blue-tongued skinks are all the same taxa throughout Australia, but carpets are different everywhere you go. Well, I think that's, I was talking to Rob about this before we got on, and you know, I think me and Rob are sort of at the point, probably Rob more so at this point, because I think for me the thing I find interesting about the taxonomy is not so much the taxonomy and putting a name on the box, but just sort of like seeing how, like, sort of putting some thought behind how they evolved, right? I you know, to me, I kind of like, you know, I don't know. I just kind of like the idea of like, how did they get to this place and how did they evolve in this environment, and, you know, how this is different from that, or so to speak. But I kind of like that. But the whole, I don't know, the taxonomy debate is kind of like, I think it's like a tribal thing at some point, you know, it's like, this is my tribe and now we're right, and this is my tribe and you were wrong. So,
well, exactly. And I mean, it's one of those disciplines where it's probably fair to say nobody's right. It's all a you know,
it's just
human concept of a snapshot in a constantly changing dynamic process that, you know, basically is just the monkey brain needs to be able to put things in boxes, but nature doesn't.
Yeah, nature finds a way. But it does make me excited about the new carpet python book for sure.
Me too. I've been excited for years.
Yeah.
Got to be getting close now. Nick needs a picture of a snake mite, I saw.
He does?
You see that on Facebook? It was really funny. He posted like, need high definition picture of snake mite, and the first comment was like, Google is your friend. I was laughing really hard.
He's probably like, I hate people.
It's like, smash.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what those guys have been working on for the past 10 years. You know, what the heck?
Yeah, what the hell?
I think that was the last question we asked 10 years ago on the episode when we had Nick on. It's like, okay, so when you're working on the more complete carpet python, and he's like, what the hell, man? We just put this out. I'm like, well, you know, that's yesterday's news, man.
And he needs to put it out so he can be on the podcast again, because he's like, I want to be on podcast, but it's like everybody's waiting for you to put the book out so that they can talk to you about it.
Yeah. Oh, he wants to be on podcast again? I tell him all the time, man. He's got an open invitation to any podcast he wants to be on. But
well, you know what? Like, open invitations is still always want to be asked. It feels good inside. You're like, oh, I'm wanted. Ooh.
I guess I'll have to hit him up again and say.
Riley said something. Come on, Nick. He's muted.
Yeah, he's muted and frozen.
Nick has to listen to the podcast to actually hear that message, though.
Well, there's that too. I mean,
good point.
He certainly does not.
Shots fired.
He doesn't listen to the podcast. I'm sorry. Like, if he listened to it, he'd hear that message.
He doesn't have to listen. He has his minions out of bounce. People listening to. He gets a report. There's the reptile report and the Nick Mutton report. He gets it every day in his feed.
Yep.
Hello.
Yep. They're
A
gonna be like,
little
"Hey
birdie
Nick,"
told me.
they're gonna say, "Hey Nick, increase Riley's speeds by about 15% if he tries to purchase anything. He made this comment on this show. He's an animal."
Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
man.
Yes.
If they found a Mojave ball python in Africa back in 1980, would we say it's a different species or subspecies?
No,
No.
because they did. And
There's
Yeah.
a lot of
happened.
examples of wildlife that have naturally occurring morphs that do not delineate a species or subspecies.
Like carpet
Red-tailed
pythons.
hawks. Man, there's so many different morphs of red-tailed hawks. Drives me crazy when I'm doing field work.
Really?
Yeah, there's dark morph red-tailed hawks. There's light morph red-tailed hawks. There's mottled one. Anyway.
Wow.
Yeah.
I never
There's
knew.
caramel coastal carpet pythons. There's hypo coastal carpet pythons. There's tiger coastal carpet pythons. There's xanthic coastal carpet pythons.
But I'm talking about in the wild specifically.
There's caramel coastal carpet pythons. There's hypo coastal. These things start somewhere.
Yeah. It's very true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Albino rattlesnakes
However,
are found in the
I
wild.
always find it fascinating when, yes, those things are out there. The building blocks for these things to happen are in the wild populations, obviously, because that's where it all comes from. But what I find really interesting is when it actually sticks. Because most of the time, like, ah, crap, I popped out albino, your food, you know, like you stick out, you're done. But then every now and then it works out, and then you have two, you know, morphotypes that are actually successful, and that's neat.
Yeah. Like the black eye gene in like children's pythons and bloods and black-eyed anery type 2 sort of thing in boas and there's definitely
lace monitors, Bell's laces.
Yeah, Bell's laces. Yep.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah. I think you're probably what you're saying though, Lucas, is that like if you walk out into the wild, you're not finding an albino rattlesnake at every turn. However, you're finding these crazy.
Like it happens, but the reason rattlesnakes aren't albino is because when it does happen, they usually don't live. It's like, if albino was favorable, they'd all be albino.
I wonder, do you think that albino? This is a crazy question, but I wonder how that affects a reptile in the wild as far as just thermoregulation.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question.
You know what I mean? Like
if they're a basker, it's definitely
picked off because they don't blend into the environment. But I wonder if they have some complications when it comes to
how they're able to metabolize or deal with UV index stuff is all great questions.
Yeah. It'll definitely affect that how they heat up and cool down.
Yeah.
I
thought there was like an albino blue whale or something like that I heard about. Is that a thing? Have you guys heard of that? Yeah, just like one albino blue whale. It's like it's too big, nothing's gonna hurt it, but it's like kind of interesting.
Wait a minute, what is that?
It's
a blue whale.
But it's not
blue. It's not blue. What the hell?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It's a good question. Good question.
Yeah, I don't know. I just I thought, how would that affect it? And plus, isn't albinism like tied to blindness? Not that I guess they necessarily need to be able to see to survive, but
I think sometimes.
Yeah.
Or like photosensitivity in leopard geckos, right? Like they're always
definitely it affects green iguanas heavily in their vision and mental capacities.
What a terrible pet, man.
Dude,
I hate
so many people come into the shop. Y'all got blue iguanas, y'all got green iguanas. I'm like, no, we don't do that. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. So you guys don't sell anything like that at all? Like
we've done it in the past where we've gotten a couple in because somebody really was dying for one and they had them in the past. And we're like, all right, there's some available, so we'll order one for you. Come in this day, it'll be in, and we'll get it for them. But like, we do not carry those in the shop. or Nile monitors or like any of the standard like whoopsie, I made a mistake reptiles.
The
Yes.
Hamburg 6-pack, as we call it.
Yeah. We don't do berms. We don't do retics. We've done them in the past, and to be honest, they don't do well with us. They're slow sellers. They take a lot of time, space, food, energy, effectively not very cost effective in the profit margin of end games if you don't have the market for it. So,
Yeah.
but
And
like
a whole bunch of questionable ethical considerations selling
yeah,
something
and like
that's gonna need a freaking house.
yeah, somebody came to us the other day and was like, I wanted to surrender my big female boa constrictor. She's 8 feet long. And I was like, I don't have the space for that. Where am I going to put that?
Yeah.
There's a lot of free roam around the shop. Like,
Yeah.
come on now. This ain't a dump.
Yeah.
This ain't the local dump.
That's one of the things
Yeah.
I really love about GX3 is you guys don't just like take on things that are out of your like very curated vision, which is great, because most shops would just be like, "Oh boy, a free boa.
Yeah.
I'll find a cage."
Which means we're gonna have baby water monitors for a while.
Well, there is that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
I think that the one thing that makes me happy about, like, if you say retics or something, I don't know who it is, and but every once in a while I'll see it either on Facebook or maybe it's YouTube. I don't know, but I see this guy. He built this. It's basically like a room off of the side of his house. That's like basically like a jungle now that he keeps like this one retic in.
See, that's
And I think,
badass.
wow, that's really cool. That's, like,
Yeah.
to me, that makes me think like, okay, there are, even though this is just this one person, but they're keeping this retic in a way that I would imagine that you could watch that thing for hours, because you could see what a retic does in the wild. And I think a couple times I've seen it up perching. It's big ass snake, perching up on this tree. It's pretty cool.
Awesome.
But let's be real. We can all count on one hand how many people or examples we've heard of that.
Exactly.
And
that's my
we
point.
can't fit on all of our hands and toes how many examples of bad keeping and people getting in over their heads or shouldn't be getting this. Like it's very disproportionate.
As Garrett says, where did they all go?
Yeah.
It's kind of a
Garrett
tragedy.
says.
Yeah, when we had him on the program months ago, he was talking about his drive to focus on the smaller retics, and he was saying, I used to produce a ton of the mainland stuff, and it was like I'd sell it to people and then they'd just disappear. It's like, where did all these 20-foot snakes go? The answer is not good.
Well, if we're good, well, I'm not going to get into it. Never mind. The dwarf and super dwarf thing is a marketing lie, and it's an absolute misnomer. It's unhealthy. It's dangerous. And I think it's unethical about what's being portrayed about the size of adult dwarf and super dwarf retics. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Okay. Well, that aside, though, that has nothing to do with what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm just saying. It's in the same vein, man. Retics are not for 99% of the people who are trying to keep reptiles.
That is what I'm saying.
If they're, I know, but
we agree.
Okay. Anyway,
my point is probably the amount of people that should actually have a retic is probably about the same amount of people that can actually do a crocodilian correctly. Like, it's not shove it in a 10-foot AP cage and feel good about yourself.
So I don't mean, I'm not trying to poke the bear or anything, but I'm just curious about as far as is like the super dwarf retic thing. I've always thought was total bullshit, but the dwarf thing, is that, is that, I mean, I guess, so here was my, let me put this out. I'm going to say this. So the dwarf thing to me always seemed kind of silly, and as far as a 10-foot snake is not a dwarf, in my opinion.
Dwarfs can still reach 14. Dwarfs can still get into the teens and still be a large, dangerous animal for the average human being.
Correct.
Period.
Okay. All right. Yes, I agree with you 100%.
So
this idea that you're saying that it's dwarf. So for me, right, when I hear it's dwarf, I'm thinking of my dash hound as opposed to a wolf, right? So I have a dwarf dash hound that's like this big, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's
I mean, shoot, look
only
at
gonna
dwarf
get this big.
monitors.
Yeah.
Dwarf monitor
100%.
versus water monitor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
Right.
in no way was I saying that everybody that wants to
Right.
retake should just settle for.
Oh no.
No,
Yeah.
I
I
wasn't.
know that.
I wasn't taking it that way. I was just saying, like, I guess maybe my interpretation was that you were saying the dwarf and super dwarf vein of it was them taking the ethical, responsible route, and I was just saying I disagree.
Oh no, I wasn't so much trying to get into ethics there. I was simply pointing out that a lot of people breed a lot of giant snakes, and I don't think a lot of people keep them for very long.
Yeah, I mean, I think Garrett's quote of where are all those adults is 100% accurate.
Yeah.
Where are they?
And that's the problem. I've said this on multiple shows. Like, if I had to fill out an application, do an interview, get a home inspection visit just to get a husky, but some kid can just walk into a reptile store and buy a reticulated python, there's a problem.
That's a great example.
Holy shit! You had to do all that to get a husky?
Absolutely. And
if you want to do it the right way,
that's fair. I mean,
Wow.
It's a high energy breed. They can be destructive. They run. If
they
your
can
fences
jump over 6-foot fences. No
Yeah.
problem.
Oh yeah.
I had absolutely
Yeah.
no problem doing that. So, like, for somebody to be like, oh, but I should be able to just get my 25-foot snake with no anything is
I mean,
absurd.
we know how big an apodora can get, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
A dwarf retic can get that big or bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scrub
And again, I'm
puff
not
size,
saying that
too.
people can't do
Yeah.
what they want. I'm just saying people should do what they want correctly. And if they can't do it that way, then maybe you should try wanting something different or adjust your situation.
Right. Oh, he lives in Cal. Oh, yeah. I see what he's saying.
Well, yeah, there's
Robert
that
said,
too.
"You
Well,
live-"
the
Yeah,
reason I
yeah,
had to go through all those though is that I got my dog from a rescue that specializes in northern breeds. It's just huskies and malamutes, stuff
Right.
like that, because there is such, just like with giant snakes, there's an epidemic of people that get the little baby huskies, like especially when Game of Thrones was big because they wanted the like wolf
God.
or whatever, and
Oh yes.
nobody knows what they're getting into, and then they can't take care of it, and then the shelters are just flooded. So like this organization literally just goes to shelters and rescues huskies that
Right.
people irresponsibly got when they were cute and small and then couldn't deal with. So like the
Right.
worst thing that this place could do is just give it to somebody else that can't take care of it. So like all
Right.
those steps are to make sure that this is the last stop in that animal's life. Because man,
Sure.
like, what
Yeah.
a terrible roller coaster to be on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I'll, I've always wanted a husky. I loved them. I thought that they, to your point, right? Visually first, they attracted me because the blue eyes and they look like a wolf.
They're wolves.
That whole
They're
type
stunning.
of thing.
Yeah.
Right. Amazing animals. But the more I researched them before I got them, I was like, nope, this is not
Yeah.
the dog for me. No.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. Yeah. It's
and
not
as much
for
as
everyone.
I wanted it, I didn't jump into it because I knew that it would not be good for either one of us,
Which is why I will never have a retic, but I can deal with a husky.
Right.
Because I like to
Yeah.
run. So
Right.
it works.
So every day, do you have to take the husky out? I know this isn't snake.
He
talk,
goes
but
out
do you
at
have
least
to-
2 to 3 times a day for some exercise. Yeah, for sure.
Really? Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
I mean,
Do you find with that exercise that it sort of keeps the calmness down? Does it
yeah.
help with
And
that?
the only reason, I've always wanted a husky too since I was little, but I had it in my head that I wasn't going to be able to. The only reason I got this particular dog is because he is just by nature a very chill husky, no destructive behaviors,
Right.
he's a lap dog when he's inside, but then that other side of him comes out as soon as you leave the house, and he gets husky crazy, can't be off leash, would definitely run away, tries to eat every squirrel, cat, moving object in sight.
Yeah.
But again, I guess all of that to say to apply it to our reptile theme,
Right.
it's like you should know what you're getting into and
Yeah.
be responsible with your choices when it's a living creature. it's it's not a oops, the t-shirt didn't fit, give it to Goodwill. It's a living animal. So
I think that's sort of where we started, right? That's where we started the whole thing, where
Yeah.
you should
Yeah.
kind of like research the animal that you're kind of getting into and kind of
yes. Yeah.
not just, I wish reptiles weren't like that kind of purchase, but
They shouldn't be. Most animals aren't.
Yeah.
It's the
well,
strangest thing.
just even animals in general, right? It's like,
Yeah.
and I think, you think that the price tag on those things make them a more disposable pet,
Well, on reptiles.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're spending $10, it's a lot easier to sort of say, nah.
Oh yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
People disregard it entirely. They treat it like an inanimate object.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You hear it all the time. Oh, well, get that one. It's only $30.
Yeah, exactly.
What's your
And-
cheapest snake? Oh, it's just a $10 fish. Like,
And
what?
that's where I think a lot of our like colloquial vocabulary, like a lot of our verbiage can be damaging when we talk about things as hobby and collection, like it's not stamps, like I know
Right.
we're all just used to it at this
Yeah.
point, but when I was first
Yeah.
getting into this, I always thought that was the weirdest freaking thing. I was like, what? Like,
all the years of doing NPR, that has come up a lot. Like with me and Owen, is like using specific verbiage and trying to get the verbiage right to sort of influence the hobby in a way that, because I'm with you. It's like collection is kind of like I get why we say that, but it's
horse people
to your-
don't say they're collection of horses, it's like, yeah.
So what would be what do you guys think? Do you have a thought on what would be the
I
right word
just
to
tell
use?
people my miniature private zoo.
Colony,
My population.
population, colony. Yeah. I like the private zoo thing. That's pretty cool. Because that's what it is, right?
There's a lot less explaining. I'm just like, yes, I maintain a small private zoo.
Yeah.
I have
I
a
don't
large population of reptiles in the spare bedroom of my place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's
Right.
better verbiage, but I'm just saying we do use words that are in line
you're
with
right.
inanimate objects.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
100%. But I think I think, I don't know, maybe we should, sort of like think about that and sort of
I also think
influence that.
I think it's a generational thing that's going to take time to slowly weed out, because reptile keeping is over time becoming less and less novel, but there are still plenty of people that are around today that find it obscure, bizarre, even if their kids or people in their family are in the generation where it's normal, and so they're sort of crossing that boundary. You see it all the time. It's still very pervasive. They don't have the same approach to a dog and a cat, but dogs and cats are cheap if you get them from the pound or something like that, if you're not going for a crazy breed, but those things are treated like the family, they end up in photo albums and weddings, people
my dog was
mourn
cheaper than
them.
all of these things.
Yeah. And so that's a little bit different, but we also connect with those animals differently because they have a little more of this like outward expressive behavior and emotion that is more relatable than most of our reptiles. And so, it's bridging that gap between the older generations that haven't been brought up, normalized around this like we have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think it just takes time, in 50 years, the third, fourth, or fifth generation after us of people who are having kids, it'll be like, reptiles won't be one in every 20 household, will be like one in every 5 households. So
yeah, certainly. And I don't know, at least, we talk about the retail side of things. I try to really instill upon people to have a mentality that is not like collecting inanimate objects that are disposable. It's like, pretty much whenever I'm doing an animal sale, the first thing that I say is like, you're going to have this for 20 years if you do everything right, 30 years if you do everything right. You know that, right? And they're like, sometimes you get the great response like, oh yeah, I hope I have it for 40. And then other times you're like, you get the silence, like, just shut up and sell me the snake response. And, it bums me out.
Yeah. I think though, I don't know. Again, maybe it's just in my bubble. I don't really go on Facebook all that much anymore. And, I try to stay away from social media as much as possible. And I actually find that keeping reptiles is quite enjoyable when you do that. Now, I might not be on the cutting edge of knowing what's going on, but quite honestly, at this point, I don't really care.
Yeah.
I don't really give two shits, but I find that I get more enjoyment out of the hobby with talking to you guys every day, or talking to, Keith and Rob every day, or, those people that I sort of keep in tight with every day, that, and you just share your, what's going on. Now, check this out, whatever the case would be. And I find that it's just more enjoyable because you're not dealing with the bullshit. But with the thing that I feel, and this is why I feel that there's a certain responsibility that I put on my shoulders to try to sort of, make sure that we're doing things the best that we can to sort of get information out there, is because when I got into the hobby, I was more of a keeper, right? When I came back in, but I felt this huge push to be a breeder in order to be somebody or fit in, or have somebody, be able to talk to people that I would want to talk to or whatever. And I feel that the hobby is sort of moving away from that, if you will. It's sort of moving more towards that keeping thing, and sort of, just watching behaviors that these animals are doing and setting them up in these, amazing enclosures, and just being able to sort of look at what they do. And I mean, isn't that, to me, I don't know, that was always the thing of why I wanted to keep them, right? It's like, I can't go to Australia to sit there on the in the bush and watch them. I'm not that lucky. So what's the next best thing, but like, I think the push in those early years was just to sort of breed. That's why we spent so much time on this last breeding episode, sort of asking that question and sort of trying to drill home, why are you doing it? You know what I mean?
Sure. 100%.
And I think, even keeping animals is like, why are you keeping them? Why? What's your point? Like, so.
Yeah. And the answer to that question doesn't have to be something that brings value to anybody but yourself.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. 100%. So I kind of feel good about the hobby. I know you guys, unfortunately, probably see a lot of the worst of the hobby. The retail side of things,
Yeah. Yeah, it happens.
I'm sorry.
But,
I'm sorry, guys.
one really good customer kind of makes up for maybe 6 to 10 really shitty ones.
Sure. Yeah.
So there is that.
But the good thing is that you guys have an influence on that to a certain extent, right? I mean, I know people are still going to be shitheads to a certain extent, but even if you can fix 2 out of 10,
it's better than nothing.
The biggest thing is if you just take the time to help people genuinely how you'd want to be helped, even if it doesn't yield a solution right away and it's long term, they recognize that, and that's all. People just want to be heard, man. That's 90% of it. They just want to be heard, even if they don't take your advice. Like, you don't gotta like run them into a wall. They're like, no, listen to me. Just like let them go and just do what you got to do, and then they'll still appreciate you at the end of the day. And then if they're like, oh, okay, you were right, then they come back a second time, and then they still appreciate you.
Yeah,
right.
So it happens, and that does feel good, and that does stick with you more than the negative stuff for sure.
Yeah. So,
but
okay.
Yeah. Excellent.
And
excellent.
I like it.
One day, I envisioned myself literally getting tired of all the breeding at some point of all the other stuff and just having popwing carpets and popwing pythons. That's
there
it.
You go. I don't know, man. I'm seeing myself like with these monitors and just being like, yeah.
No, I'm not touching that one. I know how that is. That's fishhook status. That's in and embedded. I've got one right here, and he's going to go to Allen soon for breeding, and then I will have 0, and I'm going to try and keep it at that.
Yeah.
I'll live vicariously through you guys.
Well, yeah, you also get to, oh, he's only an hour late. Look, you mentioned him and he shows up. Only an hour late.
Stevens!
Alan.
God damn it, Stevens. What the heck? It's not
This
like you're
guy.
a podcast person or something. What the hell?
Can
Right.
I copy somebody's notes?
No.
Damn it!
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
All right.
Anything else you want to hit on or you want to put out there before we jump off? Or
I'm gonna make chili.
chili?
Yeah.
Okay.
Baby back ribs. Oh,
Very cool.
I don't
From
know what I'm doing.
scratch? Scratch chili?
No,
Oh, all right.
From
I
a
mean I
can.
can, but it's it's already 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
All right.
Not
What the
Wonder
hell?
Woman over here.
I have no
Gotta
idea
take-
what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's time for bed for me. So that's about right.
It's time for a beer for me.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well,
Yes.
I'm wide awake. I just drank some coffee. Time to kick the lights in the snake room here and get a beer and make some dinner. Oh, I gotta go watch
Yeah.
my shrimp. My shrimp have been breeding and I got more baby shrimp.
Wow.
And I've added snails
Okay.
in there, and the tank is a whole new place of dynamic life. And I'm just like, I clean the snakes, go around, and then I zone out on the shrimp tank. Wow.
How big those shrimps get?
Only like this big. And
Okay.
and I when I was visiting with Tony for his wedding, I was telling him about them. He's like, what if it's recessive and what you're getting are visual hets, or maybe they're incomplete dominance? Is like, Tony, don't plant that seed in my head. So now I'm looking at him like, okay, why do I have orange ones and ones that are green and yellow and then clear ones? I've got 3 phenotypes going on here, but they're all the same thing. What's going on here?
What's
Who's
going
producing
on?
these? And this new wave came from a female that was this yellow and green, and I've got some mid-grade animals and some orange ones. So now I'm like, oh no. It's like carpet pythons in the water.
Well, if you produce like 60 of them, you might be able to make a po' boy.
Yeah, they're tiny, man. They're little things. I'd have to produce like 1,000 of them to make a po' boy.
Well,
They're
get
so
on it.
small, dude. They're
The
so
color doesn't
tiny.
matter when it's in the right aioli.
Can you
Yeah.
make fish tanks in racks? Is that possible? Then you could, Look,
Can
Riley's
you
thinking
make
now.
fish
Mm.
tanks?
Well, we do have a wall at the shop. It's got 24 fish tanks on an aluminum frame that we built, and it's
Drip.
4 rows of 6 with drip
Right.
lines, LED lights plumbed out the back for drainage system. So I guess that's sort of a fish rack.
Esque.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Trick.
Okay. Very
All
cool.
right.
Yeah, Steven's killed this. It's all
I
because he
can't
came
be
on.
here anymore. Alan's here.
Alan,
Yeah.
we talked about diamond pythons the whole time. You showed up, and now we have to go. Sorry.
Yeah,
man.
sorry,
That's
buddy.
just how it goes. Get some notes, take some notes. Yeah.
Yep.
He recently got those diamond pythons. Now he's coming
Oh,
to
man,
our
they're
dark
so
side.
pretty.
Yeah.
Our dark
Yep.
side. Welcome. You lured me in, but now it's time to lure you back.
The secret about Stevens is everybody thinks he's a monitor guy. He's an IJ guy.
Wow.
Really?
Have him give you honest numbers. He's an IJ guy.
He's holding secrets. I know he has a tiger IJ that I produced.
He's
I know that.
got IJs. I think he just didn't realize how many he had one day, and he's an IJ guy. He just
So-
doesn't want to admit it.
He should really be talking on Morelia keeping radio and not monitor keeping radio. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
sorry, Kai. He's an imposter.
Yeah. There we go. Crustaceans and coffee. Okay.
There we go.
So the only thing that I'm going to throw out there is that he needs to check out FishTube.
Oh, I'm
geez.
all over it.
FishTube. There we
Come
Sign
go.
on
me
over
up.
to FishTube. Dive in. Sorry.
It's a
Um,
splash.
Yeah. So we had part 1 of the breeding carpet episode this past week, and part 2 will be coming out this week. So me and Owen were talking, and we kind of went on some tangents throughout the show. So we extended it into a second part where we're going to cover more of the spring breeder stuff, setting up eggs, some of the problems you can run into with that, setting up babies, getting them going, taking care of them, selling them, those kind of things, and why please, for the love of God, listen to me and don't make the mistake that I made in 2018, where you think like, I'm just going to put all these snakes together. They're not going to all go. And they all go. And then you don't know what to do with yourself because you're not prepared. So,
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah, super
I,
excited
coming
for
out
that.
Tuesday.
I have to avoid that this season myself.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, man. It's tough.
Yeah. I'm actually not going to breed some things this year because I'm like, man, probably shouldn't.
I enjoy the one off, one on. I love that approach, man. One season off, next season I breed. Next season off, next season I breed.
I've never taken a season off. Since
great.
2013, I've never taken a season off. Something's always hatching or being born.
I'm telling you, man, you should try it. It's good. It's nice. And
I have
refreshing.
too many
You're just
goals, too many things to achieve.
Dude, I had a tone book full of goals and I threw it in the trash. I said, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to be a slave to the tone book. I think a big thing should come across. The more you know. Star with that's an 80s thing.
I know full ignorance.
Yes.
Bongs and bread lie.
Bongs and Bradley. Okay. All right.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Oh,
Joe Shrimp Shack, Bongs and bread. This is making me hungry.
Yeah, it's time to go.
All right, gentlemen. Go ahead, say your piece. And
all right. Listen to all the other podcast network, Morelia Radio Pythons. I have lots of Brettles still. The shipping window's closing. Please. You know you want them.
Yes. Take them.
Take them from me. Thank you.
Buy them because those are beautiful. Those are really kick-ass Brettles, dude.
Thank you. Yes, they are my pretty babies, and they could be your pretty baby.
Yep. My stuff's available on Morph Market. Check it out. Find me on Reptile stuff, Riley's Reptiles, and that's about it. YouTube, Riley Jimison, and that's it.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel, NPR Network.
Yes. Subscribe.
Yes. So please. And thank you for everybody that has.
Yes.
We appreciate all that. So
thank you, everybody.
Absolutely.
We'll
catch y'all next time for some more carpet and coffee.
Bye.
Yeah.
Oh, God.